Okay. So then probably we can start. So I was working here for like 10 years, but now I escaped to Hong Kong. So the book came out from there, but it was, for a long time, it was incubated here. So let's start with a short opinion poll. I think it's not for this audience, but still, let's try it. Do you want to live forever? Raise your hand. Not that much. Okay. Do you want to live forever if in good health? Okay. So, do you want to stay healthy until you die? Yeah, everybody. I think guys who are not raising their hands, they probably do poker facing. So, but on our goal to this. They need a mic. Yeah. This is a mic problem. So there is a little obstacle between us and healthy life. You know that aging is a risk factor for all age-related diseases, and all of us and all the 8 billion people will probably die if everything will go as it goes, and not all of us will die a good death. So at the same time, if you look into funding, we find surprising thing. Well, 8 billion people are affected, but the funding is really, so this is numbers before the big American baraboom, but only 9% went to aging, and out of this 9%, only like less than 1% is going to fundamental research. A huge part is going to Alzheimer. So, and this is a really surprising figure, and I think at the end of my talk you will realize why it's not that surprising. Okay, let's try to answer that. So, start with the basic question: what is aging? Anyone has an idea? Yes. Senescence. This is a synonym, right? So, but actually, if we ask experts in the aging field, they don't have a single answer. Instead, they produce different ones. And this paper, actually led by Vadim Gladyshev, he collected these answers, built these clouds of words, and what you see, how do you define aging? No, decline, something goes bad, function down. What causes aging? Some damage accumulates and stuff. How do you define rejuvenation? Somehow it goes back. And what is the most important unanswered question in the field? Aging, right? So it's clear that the consensus is missing. That's how the paper is titled. And the question is, can we be productive in our anti-aging endeavor without knowing what is aging? Stay intrigued for a moment, and before, now we will have amplifier. So, but I want to play with you a little cruel game now. Hello. Yeah, I think it's okay. It's better than your voice right now. Hello. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's switch on our imagination, and let's imagine that a horrible disease is around affects all animals, almost all animals, and all humans, and and does it work? Oh, good. I think it's marginal effect, right? Okay, excellent. So let's stick to leprosy. Leprosy, all people suffer from it, almost all animals, but by some condition of the thought experiment, we cannot find the bacteria that causes this. So question is, how would this research paper look like? What will be published in journals? So, and since we cannot find a singular root cause, we would start believing that all the effects, little lesions we see are like independent cumulatively leading to the disease. And we can build up hallmarks of leprosy, and many of these hallmarks will be very familiar to you. There will be mitochondrial dysfunction, deregulated nutrient sensing, metabolic rewiring, of course, epigenetic alterations. I have Googled it carefully. All these things happen in leprosy, and very little hint will be there that point out to a bacteria. Maybe immune reprogramming. But it's really far away. So then we can also build methylation clocks, because obviously epigenetics changes as the patients progress. And we will be very happy about this tool, because we can measure how deep the patient is in the disease. So then to rationalize what happens, we will recruit physics to describe disease with the physical formulas, and the exciting new field of leprophysics will emerge. And then, because entropy is something we cannot fight, we will start realizing that leprosy is basically not curable, and anti-leprosy is an oxymoron. And since it's oxymoron, so then we need to switch our gears from leprosy to healthprosy, at least to help people who are dying to die more comfortable. So then they will be, of course, a reprogramming approach or replacement, so we can try to transplant fingers or eyes to this poor patient, and this would seem to be a good approach, because it's clearly a damaged body, so the new finger would be excellent. So without knowing bacteria, we wouldn't know that the new finger will be also infected. So also reprogramming with Yamanaka factors. Also, this person was healthy at some point. Now we need to reprogram it back, and yeah, it should be healthy, right? So the leprosy escape velocity will be there. And also, as plan B and C, we will have cryopreservation to freeze the patients before the final solution is found, or mind upload to digitize, and overcome the limits of our bodies. And all that would go for quite a long time without much of results before we find the dumb bacteria. When we find the dumb bacteria, then we probably will forget about what happened before and focus on antibiotic. And after, so from this point, but not anyhow before, aging becomes an engineering problem. So then maybe antibiotics can be difficult to find, but at least we can foresee how much time it will work, and how much effort we should put in. So you already understood why I play that, right? So this is a sort of a harsh parody on what happens in the aging field. And the question is if a similar paradigm shift can happen in aging. So that is a disruptive discovery possible, where it can come from. And my belief is that just we need to answer what is aging. Very basic question. So let's go back to this cloud. So this, what causes aging? Damage. Damage, I think this is a wrong take, and just a cognitive artifact, and I will explain my idea to you in a second. So first, damage theory is omnivorous. If we don't know a cause, then we can describe every disease with damage. In every infection, in every autoimmune disease, in every intoxication, we find damages, right? But you can understand how unproductive damage theory would be if you would try to cure infections with the damage paradigm, right? So we will never come to vaccination, never come to antibiotic. Same with autoimmune, intoxication. So this is actually delirium tremens patient. So we also can rationalize delirium tremens through the damage made to these neurons. And so should we replace them and treat with Yamanaka factors? No, there are much simpler ways to help this guy. So second, damage accumulation theories have very poor explanatory power. So many observations remain unexplained. For example, you know eusocial animals. eusocial animals are ants, termites, bees, and also some mammals in which they have reproductive queen and not reproductive workers. And reproductive queens live way longer than workers, sharing at the same time the same genome. And this is not the full story. So in some cases, workers can become queens and then switch back. And so what happens with lifespan in these cases? So if they go to this is pseudo-queen, it's called Hammergate. Adult animal from worker become a queen. And then they start to live much longer. And furthermore, if they switch back, then they also regain short life. Where is damage in this equation? So also some animals like jellyfishes, ctenophores, also some eusocial animals can rejuvenate. So they can regain the more youthful state. And we just published this in NPG Aging. It's a small paper and a theoretical one. So that, important aspect is this rejuvenation happens not under regular conditions, but then some trouble happen. So if everything is ideal, rejuvenation doesn't happen. And just, can you explain why evolution should choose death if longer life is available? So we just, can be proved as a theorem. It cannot happen within the classic the evolutionary theories of aging, and according to the damage approach. So it has poor explanatory power. Next, they are non-falsifiable. You know Karl Popper, the principle of falsifiability. Good theory should produce ideas of experiments that can be performed and can give positive or negative outcomes. That based on these outcomes, we can judge if theory is correct or not. So no examples of this. So if something is growing in Pasteur's retort, then microbial theory of disease is wrong. If microbes are not growing there, microbial theory is correct. So another one is redshift of galaxies that help to test the theory of relativity. However, damage theories mostly tell that we need to inhibit some sort of damage, and then we will cure aging. But come on, it means that the final deliverable of the theory should arrive at the same time as a test for this theory. So we have a screwdriver that is required to shoot a rocket to Mars. But until we press the start button, we don't know if screwdriver worked out. If the rocket shoot, then our screwdriver was perfect. If it doesn't, then the screwdriver was wrong or something else. So this is not how it works. So we need to be able to validate our theory, which is just a tool to cure aging, somehow outside of the reaching a final goal. So not falsifiable. Also, they are not productive because actually no drugs were produced based on these theories. And in the same time, Ozempic, which seemed to be doing something, arrived, but arrived not from the mainstream aging field. It was found randomly. So I believe that this theory is in crisis. And the question arises how to construct a scientific hypothesis of aging. So, and here we have two approaches. One approach is the one that most people resort to. This is a bottom-up approach. We find some effects in mitochondria, in epigenetics, in telomeres, and we build up a macroscopic model. The problem is that there are so many degrees of freedom. So the number of parameters are so much bigger than number of observations that we can build a non-contradictive theory of aging around any disease, around any gene or any process. So the falsifiable predictions are difficult to make again, and just too many things are changing. We don't know what is the egg, what is the chicken. And the alternative approach is the evolution. evolutionary approach are top-down, so our bodies have been shaped by evolution to reproduce. And these type of models, they have much less parameters and much more observations. So that, of course, the observations are also limited, but also much more limited is the number of parameters. The downsides of this is that you cannot promise a drug with the evolutionary concept, and that's why people don't consider them seriously. But also the evolution has a poor experimental toolkit because the experiments take too long. And just on a political side, these theories, damage and mechanistic theories, are very compatible with each other because they are so vogue and people easily make friends. The evolutionary theories, on the other side, they are very aggressive to each other, and I have a, respectful disagreement. Happens all the time. So that's why these evolutionary people are much more isolated from each other. But their theories are more stringent, and falsifiable predictions can be produced. So, and of course, there are much more mechanistic theories than evolutionary ones. I just want to remind you key evolutionary theories, historical ones. So the first one was produced, not the first, second one, but first mainstream one was produced by Peter Medawar and John Haldane. Their idea was that animals die because of the predation diseases called hunger, and only few of them survive to late ages. After the age that nobody survives to, aging becomes neutral, evolution doesn't care. So this in principle is a very good hypothesis. The problem is that animals do survive to the age of aging. So this is, for example, the mortality curve for lions. You see this zoo population, wild population. Let's focus on the wild population. Here we see that the newborn lion has a quite high mortality, then it drops to the age of maturity, reaching like 8%, but then it starts growing, reaching like 25% by the age of 15. And lions survive to this age in the wild. So aging is not neutral, and in principle, if a longer-lived lion will emerge, such a mutant variant, it should have more opportunities to reproduce, and this mutant should be fixed. And the same mortality, the growth of mortality with age, was found in many wild populations of animals, like red lions in this graph, in ungulates, in primates, and in whales. And this theory, while correct, is not sufficient to explain aging. The second theory that complement the selection shadow was proposed by G.C. Williams, and he proposed genes that are good in youth and bad in old years. So the gene helping animals that are here, many animals, and damages animals that are here, so the very few, very small fraction. So if we believe in such genes, then indeed aging can evolve. However, the weakness of this theory is that we need to introduce a non-evolvable feature. So why evolution cannot compensate this detrimental trait of the pleiotropic gene? Why it cannot disconnect them? So we can easily imagine a gene with dual functions, bad and good, but I have hard time to imagine a single gene that evolution cannot compensate. So, and with this, I think the theory just, it was proposed in 1957, then people didn't realize how flexible our genome is. And now I think it did not stand the test of time. At least non-convincing examples of such pleiotropic genes has been provided. If you think about like us and chimps, right? Chimps are living twice shorter than us. So does it mean that they age because of some different genes? What happened during our evolution when we doubled our lifespan? So it's a completely new gene set arrived? No, probably the in this paradigm the detrimental functions were removed. But why didn't it happen in chimps? Why they still keep their short lifespan? So not clear. So the next theory was another step forward. It was a theory that introduced a fundamental trade-off that aging is a pay for something good. Kirkwood used energy as a currency. So he claimed that animals invest either in reproduction, either in repair, and the ones that reproduce faster can overgrow the ones that reproduce slower but age also slower. So, but this problem, in his theory, aging is an energy-saving mechanism. But this is somehow contradictory to observations again, because caloric restriction prolongs lifespan. So slower aging seems to be cheaper. Males do not invest much in reproduction and aging faster in most mammals. Food consumption decreases with age, while if food is available and if food is something that limits our lifespan, then old animal finding food should rejuvenate. So in poor ecosystems, in Arctics and caves, in deep water, they are all packed with the long-lived species, meaning that longevity is cheap. So, and all these theories, of course, do not communicate very well to the practice, and this created a crisis in understanding. So this is an illustration for this crisis. This is a quote for a specific paper published last year in Nature Aging. So what they write, aging evolves because the force of natural selection on traits declines with increased age when organisms enter the so-called selection shadow after reproductive maturity. But wait, this is number of survivors. This is the power of selection. Reproductive maturity happens somewhere here, and the decline of selection happens somewhere here. So this is very long after. So the right wording would be that in the post-reproductive period, then the animals lost their ability to reproduce, or after the age of expected death due to extrinsic reasons. But I think this is just a copy-paste mistake. However, it is not a singular mistake. This sentence as a spell travels from paper to paper. And this just indicates how peripheral evolutionary theory is for the field. So they consider it as a sort of dusty basement of aging biology. Whatever they put there can sit there well. And whatever sit there for good. But I believe in a different thing. So here I will probably skip the illustration why this formula is so incorrect, because I believe it is obvious. I delivered the message. So the idea is that the paradigm is missing, and the place where the paradigm should be is not considered empty. It's considered to fill with something, and I believe that this emptiness somehow contributes to the situation with funding and situation of our low progress. So now let's go and speak about my work. So what we do, I have proposed a new theory that can potentially fill this vacuum. Let's discuss first, what is aging? Damage or program? Before talk, I spoke to some people. They say, of course it's damage. But why? Why do they think so? So before jumping into it, just be informed that these are two completely different strategies. So if aging is damage, then we need to stop these dots from flying away or try to bring them back, repair some damage. If aging is a program, then we need to find this program and break it down, take out bullets from this gun. And these are two completely different activities. And if we take a wrong direction, we probably lost all the effort, money, and time, and energy. Yes?
Why do you assume that there are
So I think that the question is why they are contradictory. I think damage is around in every disease. So, and if it comes as a consequence of a program, yes, it's not contradictory. But if damage is the like a primary cause by itself, then I think this is a very different from a program. Because program you can switch off, damage you can only repair downhill. Yeah, but so the these are weaknesses of damage theory that I have listed before, but the reasons of why people don't believe a program are purely philosophical, and they were pitched like maybe 70 years ago. It is evolutionary biology that arguments were very, very strong, but people forgot these arguments and do not really resort to them when making a choice between program and damage. And I believe that I have found ways how to address these arguments. So the first argument is, what is the aging program good for? Because we are made to reproduce. If an organism died of aging, they cannot reproduce anymore, should be pure loss. So, and second, why don't we see mortal mutants? Because if aging is programmed, then it should be in our genes. We can mutate, genize these genes, yet immortal worms, immortal flies, immortal people, never see them. So, conclusion is that not possible. So, let's start with the first question. I want to remind you what is called Hamilton's rule. It is about evolution of altruism. When altruism can evolve, sorry for an equation, so B is benefit for recipient, C is cost for an altruist, R is relatedness. Example, I have an ice cream. I give it to my brother. Our relatedness with my brother is 50%, meaning my genes lost 50% of the ice cream. Yeah. Yes, bad deal. So the equation doesn't stand. I give my ice cream to my twin brother, 100% relatedness. Still, it should be more, right? So because a transaction of giving ice cream can be also error prone. So I shouldn't give ice cream, in any case it seems to be, and altruism cannot evolve, but ice creams are distributed not evenly. I can have so many ice creams that I cannot eat myself, they melt, and so then I distribute them, trying to give them to my relatives as good as possible. In this case, B and C are different. So in case if the ice cream is precious for me, B equals C. If ice creams have no cost for me, then I get rid of them without caring too much. However, ladies and gentlemen, life is not ice cream. And what can be the benefit that I can provide to my relatives that can be more precious than my life itself? Yeah, it seems to be that it is impossible. So how death can be good? A very depressive black screen. However, you see here two white dots, and these are two examples where death is definitely adaptive and programmed. Example number one, our ABI system in bacteria, abortive infection system. If a bacteria is infected with a phage, then it is committed to die. And before dying, it will produce a lot of phages that will kill brothers. To defend brothers from this outcome, bacteria kills itself before phage does anything. And this is adaptive suicide, very well studied, part of the immune system in bacteria, accepted, published, and justified. So in this case, it's a death of whole organism. So also there is this thing, similarity, that happens in metazoans in many different taxa, that after reproduction, animals die due to hormonal program. Ecological role is not clear, but everybody believes it's a program, because if we remove glands, they don't die. If we inject hormones, they die. So it is hormone-regulated adaptive death. So starting from this, we construct our own model of how, in which case, aging, limited lifespan, let's say, can be beneficial in normal animals. So we need to introduce, borrow from bacteria, pathogens of specific sort. So these pathogens should be, first, sterilizing. Infected animals cannot reproduce. Second, they should be chronic. Immune system cannot get rid of them. In our population is HIV, gonorrhea, syphilis, toxoplasm. So of course HIV kills, but it kills very, very slowly. And in this case, host is committed to die without leaving progeny for sure, and its individual fitness contribution to future generations is 0 because no progeny anymore. So, and how does it change with age? So since there is no recovery, longer it lives, better is the chance to pick up this disease. Better chance to pick up this disease. See, this is an experimental example, fish in the Norwegian lakes. See, older the fish is, more chance is that it gets pathogens. So by age of 8 years, almost every fish has pathogens. If these pathogens would sterilize, then individual fitness is 0. And now let's say this fish is swimming next to its relatives and can infect them. Then what is called inclusive fitness. Inclusive fitness is my contribution to the future generations, accounting also for reproduction of my relatives. My inclusive fitness can become negative. So I'm not only 0 myself, I also can damage my relatives. And then it, by infecting them. So, and then it makes sense for me to die. So, to make the situation more agile, we now run a quiz. So, guess a pathogen. Okay, but if you guess a pathogen, don't scream it out. You will ruin all the fun. Raise your hand, and who first raises the hand will have a word. So, who guessed the pathogen will get a book for free. So, this is a quote a little bit mutilated to keep the secret. Actively swimming larvae of this parasite are strikingly different from their adults. Then the larva finds a suitable host that makes a hole in its integument with the help of special enzymes and then penetrates the host body with an amorphous mass of cell, grows like a tumor with tendrils surrounding. Yeah? Yeah, okay, it was easy.
I don't even know what I'm supposed to get.
What is it?
Good.
Peter, what is it?
Saculina. Wait a second. Okay. This is Saculina. It's a parasite of crab. It is a relative of barnacles, you know, the ones that are sitting on the stones. But this sit on the crab and penetrates it, sterilizes it, and uses its resources to reproduce itself. So you can believe that if, let's say, 50% of crabs are infected, the lifespan of this Saculina is limited by lifespan of a crab. Then for these poor sterilized crabs, they are of value 0 for their own evolution. They may want to kill self to save other crabs that live nearby. So how do we now, let's go now strict to the equation. How do we solve this problem? So first of all, the C becomes 0 because we are sterile. And second, B can be increased because we can save several animals. Right, so we can, one infected animal can infect many, and this can amplify this B component. Still, our relatedness is very important, because if relatedness is 0, then even a sum may not be sufficient to make such harsh actions, as aging is not affecting only infected individuals, it's affecting everyone. So there is still a chance that by the age X, we will be healthy. So, and the to play with this game, we developed a new model, epidemiology in viscous populations, because classic epidemiology does not account very well for kin specificity, with these kinship gradients that relative animals live nearby in the wild. So the model was like, dots are moving on the surface, rejecting each other, creating behavior like territorial animals would have, like these wolves in Minnesota. And so what happens when we run epidemics in this? No, first of all, yellow animals are short-lived, red animals are long-lived. If we have yellow animals, introduce a little bit of red animals, long-lived mutant here. What will happen? Long-lived mutant lives longer, replicates better, it replaces the short-lived variant. Very easy. So if we try to introduce pathogen, which is chronic, sterilizes 90%, what will happen with the short-lived and long-lived population? Since long-lived individuals spend much more time in this infected state, epidemics will be much stronger in the long-lived population. So, and now, final experiment, we introduce now pathogens and long-lived mutant. What happens? Long-lived mutant first expands, then picks up the pathogens. Pathogens are more prevalent in this population because they are long-lived animals spend more time as infected, and then the long-lived variant is gone. So, and this is a mechanism of selection. And with this, we resolved the first problem typically raised against adaptive aging. So now, questions?
What's a pathogen?
So this is a theoretical pathogen. In our population, it would be like what is sexually transmitted. Gonorrhea doesn't kill, sterilizes. Syphilis also does the same but kills a little bit later. So, but they have typically sexually transmitted infections. They have long life cycles, and also HIV does, also genital herpes. TB can do that, and there are quite some pathogens that affect the host's ability to reproduce.
So could you go back to the two simulation?
Yes.
I'm trying to understand them.
Yes. So
one is you're introducing a stronger. What does red stand for?
Red is long-lived.
Long-lived what?
Long-lived host. So the short-lived host lives for, sorry for if I didn't explain it well, lives for 90 time units. Long-lived host lives twice longer. So, and if we introduce it, first because it lives longer, replicates longer, it expands, but then since it cannot control the pathogen very well with its long lifespan, it goes away because much more sterilization and demographic version.
It's the hypothesis that there is actually a program running that caps age, and it does so because at a population level, it promotes survival of the population as a whole, the species as a whole.
No, this would be group selection. So our model runs on kin selection, that I protect my relatives specifically. And of course, the viscosity, this R, is a very important component of the model. So if we would have these dots like chaotically, like molecule of gas, interact stochastically and promiscuously, the selection wouldn't go there. So the longer life will be fixed.
How does the kin factor, the relatedness factor, figure into what you're talking about here with this infectious sterilizing disease?
How kin factor?
The relatedness. I don't understand how relatedness factors in.
No, so if I kill myself to save everybody in this room, you will say, thank you, Peter, but my altruistic gene will be not fixed, right? So I need to kill myself for my kids. So then they will inherit my altruistic gene and carry it further. There was a question earlier, sorry?
It's related to what I was asking before, but what is the minimum size of this pathogen, like head S or prions within like the mushroom or the fungi? Head S is a prion, right? It's kind of like immune system. It converts it.
Yeah, I think this is a little bit off topic. Probably we can discuss this question later.
What is the minimum size of these Does it have to be a virus? Does it have to be like
So you mean sterility? So in principle, sterility need to be quite huge. However, if we assume that there are situations that few different pathogens can cumulatively create a stronger sterility, then each of them can contribute a little bit, and by as a mixture, they can make the host sterile. It will work exactly as it is. So yeah, please.
So in a population, the longer-lived individuals, like the longer-lived mutants, could then be like a vector for disease because they're able to carry it longer, infect more. So it's disadvantageous for the population to have longer-lived individuals.
Well, I don't like when you speak about population because it's a group selection argument. So in principle, the core idea of the hypothesis is that these longer-lived individuals are bad for their own kin, for their own children, siblings that live nearby. So we know that there are relatedness gradients in the wild. So if we probe animals from here and from San Diego, they will be quite different. If we probe animals from here and from Auckland, they will be more similar. So and this spatial distribution of genotypes is one of the core assumptions of the model.
But why is it important?
Again, because I want to help my own kids and not some random guys.
But why is it not group selection?
No, because it's kin selection, right? So group selection is then you put the collective benefit above your individual benefit.
The kin selection is kind of also group, just smaller.
No. Kin selection trait helps your genes more than random other genes. Yeah. Your mom is also okay, probably, but if she's not that old, if she still can reproduce.
Some human, like long way, they also share genes.
Well, I mean, did they have the same?
No, but also competition happens between the same species, right? So you compete with other people, right? So you don't want to help them. Sometimes maybe you want to infect them.
So, I mean, does this imply though that humans are less susceptible to like chronic diseases than like something like a chimpanzee if we have longer lifespans?
So I think the situation with humans is that we can control many diseases by behavioral responses. That we already know how to avoid infected individuals, all these strange dudes. So the also hygiene. If you think what our reflexes are, most of them are about avoiding infections.
Okay, but then if you think about like things like turtles and whales who live longer than us, is it because maybe they associate with less people that they also have longer lifespans? Like less
No, so pathogens is not the only factor that shapes evolution of lifespan. If I'm a whale, I cannot live for 3 days because I need time to grow this mass, right? So the size, of course, if I want to use this huge size, I need to be long-lived.
Well, but crows, they live longer than humans.
Yeah, we will come to birds later. So, of course, there are also other factors that can push lifespan further, but I believe that the only factor, but at least in my imagination, the only factor that can push lifespan into shorter region are these infections, this mechanism. So, but of course, other factors are balancing it, modulating. Yeah.
This is more of an observation, really, Peter. The modelling you've just shown there reminds me of forest fires. So I've seen some very similar modelling for forest fires in the sense that if you try and over-control forest fires, you need a certain amount of small fires to prevent a catastrophic fire from taking the whole forest down.
Trees do not move. Here we move. Here the hosts are moving.
The moving,
Yeah, so the
Trees are
a little bit different. So thank you for questions. I think we need to go to the second puzzle. So why don't we see these immortal mutants? So we can see what we call progeria. It looks like a gain-of-function mutant. The patients are aging very, very fast. So this guy is probably age of 13. So, but we never see this immortal guy, loss-of-function mutant. Why that's so? Of note, there is you know, you all know the naked mole rat. It is a mouse-sized creature that can live for 40 years, showing no increase in aging with time. Mortality doesn't increase with time. And this is one of the, it is the only non-aging mammal, as it is believed right now, one of the few eusocial mammals. So, and these guys, they have, obviously, they have had common ancestors with squirrel, mice, rats, other rodents that age normally. So, and along this branch, something should happen, and aging mother should produce this atavistically aging offspring. So, in principle, non-aging is possible, but somehow aging should be very genetically stable. And why it can be so? To explain that, I need to introduce a new concept. Hope you will handle it. It's the red queen theory. You know, through the looking glass, Lewis Carroll Alice, is interacting with this red queen, and they are running, but they are standing in the same spot. And to move forward, you need to run even faster. So why it is relevant to pathogen-host interactions? Because pathogens are evolving super fast, because the generation time is very, very short, couple days. So, and that's why hosts, they are adapting to our immune system, and hosts need to evolve their immune system also as fast as possible. If you look at the speed of how immune gene evolves, they are evolving 3 to 6 times faster than everything else. So, and why red queen? So we can look at animal and pathogen, then come in a couple thousand years, we will find the same picture. They will be in the same balance. But behind that, there was a fight that to keep this balance, the host invented new tricks, the pathogen invented new tricks, and so there was this coevolution. And now we are coming, people call it arms race or tug of war, and we are coming to the second quiz. So if aging evolved to fight pathogens, so control pathogens, how should pathogens affect aging in their interest?
It should affect it positively.
Positively.
If aging evolved, or if aging evolved to fight pathogens, then pathogens should
Retard aging.
Retard aging. So they should slow down aging. This is something what is so you all three. I don't know. I have only one book for you. Now you can fight. Yeah. So in principle, the model predicts that pathogens should slow down aging. So, but do we have such examples, please?
Can you explain a bit more why it's slowed down? Because it looks, to me, it looks like if we age faster, we die faster, so the changing of our genes goes faster, so we have like more chances to fight the pathogens. I don't get why.
No, so the pathogen, we develop some, so it is a question about core red queen hypothesis, right? So let's say there is a pathogen like HIV. Some people have receptor loss. HIV cannot infect them. Then HIV, in principle, if there are many such people around, then HIV can evolve to infect them with another receptor and spread again in the population. Then this receptor can be also lost. And this like runs a cycle that runs forever.
Yeah, but to get those mutations, for us to have like defense, it would be like better for us to die quicker. Oh, I don't know.
No, we didn't come to the dying part yet. So the aging will come in the next slide probably. So, but generally, from the mathematical modeling, the pathogens, if they act in their own interest, should slow down aging. And such examples exist. So there are data on intestinal worms that actually reduce inflammation, prolong lifespan a little bit by reducing these inflammatory diseases. So you see here the blue crosses is the products of these worms basically inhibit inflammation, reduce the I forgot diabetes and Alzheimer, I think.
Can
So,
you
but
assume that there are positive pathogens that have
well,
beneficiary effects on?
yeah, definitely there are activities of the pathogens that can be beneficial for human patients.
This is the only example you know.
It is the only example I know in humans. But in animals, such examples are more numerous. There is a question, please.
Yeah, one thing that might be relevant to this is like I have one copy of ApoE4, the Alzheimer's risk factor gene, increases the likelihood of Alzheimer's by about 50%. I only have one copy, so it's not as bad. But when I found out I had a copy, I immediately infected myself with hookworms. And I've had hookworms, for the last 2 years or so, which has helped. I have less inflammation, less autoimmune stuff.
Okay, so you can justify that. Yeah. Okay. So so the comment was that in the audience experience, the worms indeed work. So, but so the question is. Yeah. So this is all peer-reviewed and I think validated. I think there are no reasons not to believe in that. So how do you think? In which species this effect will be much more prominent?
What was the last word?
Huh?
What was the last word you said?
The more this effect of pathogens extending lifespan will be more prominent than in humans. Mice, no. Yes, but there are more prominent examples. Any ideas? There should be in animals in which there are.
Social ones?
Yeah, of course, in eusocial ones, where they have few programs for different cases. So, and it was shown that some tapeworms can actually shift the speed of aging in workers into the speed of aging of queens. So these are workers. The black ones are queens, and yellow ones are workers with tapeworms. Much better, but for us, unfortunately, it wouldn't work because we are not eusocial. Sorry. So, but in case of this worm, it's obviously a clear benefit. So it wants to get to the next stage, to the woodpecker. For this, the woodpecker should point it out. So they don't want this host to die of stupid aging, right? And in return, hosts may want to protect their aging from manipulations. And if aging is indeed in this tug of war, then evolution may have introduced protectors that prevent manipulation and also prevent the effects of mutations and effects of our therapies. So, and with this, we can resolve the issue that the program is, we don't say intentionally about evolution, but sort of intentionally stabilized genetically to prevent pathogens from switching it off. So with this, we have solved both of these classic questions, classic objections, and there is no any more scientific reasons, in my opinion, to believe in entropy and damage. And importantly, the model has a very strong explanatory power. And the quiz number 3, the next book, goes to the person who can say what all these examples have in common. What are these examples? These are aging exceptions that are found almost in every second gerontological talks. Whatever flies live very long, not only birds, but also bats are living much longer than terrestrial mammals of their sizes. So the caste asymmetry, we already spoke about it. Queens living much longer than workers. Negligible senescence in eusocial mole rats. Similparity when the fish goes up the river, lays eggs, and then dies. You know, these salmons that migrate from oceans to river in big numbers. So these are different life histories. very different animals from different taxa, but they have, like in 3 words, you can say what they have in common. Ah?
They live in colonies?
No, no, no. You raise the hand, then you get a word. Yeah?
None of them live on land. They're not. Each one has its.
Mole rats on
they
land.
live underground, right? It's different.
No, wrong answer. Wrong answer. So, like eusocial insects, they all like that, as many of them live on land.
They all live in adverse circumstances, like and the fish is flowing against the water, and it's always having to, like in your previous example, you said you have to run with all you have to stay in the same place. Similarly, to maintain where they
High
are,
metabolic
they have to
rate.
work much harder.
Do you mean high metabolic rate? Yeah, but fish are dying by like some adaptive suicide, and the birds and bats that also have high metabolic rates, they age very slowly. So this, no, and still high metabolic rate, it doesn't apply to negligible senescence and naked mole rats. So, and this should be some qualifying factor that applies to all 4. Okay, one more attempt.
Are they also very specialized, highly specialized?
Wrong answer. So, no, birds, not all birds are specialized, right? So far, the closest one was what was said, that they live in groups, and this is about, so I give you a hint. So this is about this R thing. It's about R thing. So do you remember Hamilton inequation? Relatedness, please?
Maybe the way they live in groups is such that there's no privileging of their kin versus other creatures in how they interact, such that there wouldn't be much of a difference with pathogen spreading.
Very general, can be simpler.
Are they all like highly related within their?
No, 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 no. So it is more general. So I think I'm torturing you for too much. So, but generally they have very strange population structures, all of them. So because birds and bats, they have very flat relatedness gradients. So the answer is here. So that because dispersal is much higher. So if we compare them to terrestrial mammals, so the terrestrial mammals live much more close to the place they were born, and birds fly for long distances. And this reduces R component in Hamilton's inequation, so that they have lesser chance to infect their relative. So this, obviously, the short life of workers can reduce pathogen burden in the colony, and the queen is inside the colony, so if workers die fast and control pathogens with their short lifespan, the queen will never get it, and the whole thing is to protect her. So, and these eusocial colonies are very exotic. So in case of mole rats that are eusocial, but in mole rats both, not only queens, but also workers are non-aging, which is weird. So, and here the model predicts that they should be hypersensitive, like ABI in bacteria, so that if we kill ourselves in response to any infection, then they can keep colony sterile and pathogen-free, and then aging becomes redundant if aging is indeed anti-pathogen mechanism. So this is, I will not tell you more about, so there is our preprint that came out maybe some weeks ago, how we discriminate between mole rats and other eusocial insects that have this cased asymmetry. But one of the most interesting falsifiable hypotheses of this theory is that mole rats should kill themselves in response to any infection. So this is hypersensitivity mechanism, and indeed there are sort of small case reports in the literature that indeed indicate that they do that. So people try to infect them with herpes virus. Herpes virus is something that mice don't care at all, and all the mole rats died. Very sad case report, like don't do that. with your mole rats if you do. But it was a great inspiration for me when I found it. So I don't want to extend my talk too much about the exotic animals. I think you already fed with this. What about fish? So the idea is, read my book. No, so I think we are running out of time. So what are the actionable experiments? So let's say, of course, we need to test the predictions of the hypothesis to find it true or false. But let's say if it's true, what will be the suggestions to fight aging? So first of all, the paradigm is that aging is a program evolved to remove infected individuals, protect the kin, and it is basically functional part of the immune system. If it's functional part of the immune system, then it should interact with it, and probably is executed with this by it. So, and now, of course, we all see these papers coming out about immune system and its role in aging is increasing and increasing, but most people consider that it is deregulation, that something is getting lost in the immune system. So our theory produces an additional spin on it, so that there should be some actively damaging function emerging in the immune system. So, and rejuvenating immune system probably is the most promising intervention. However, we need to focus on removing stuff rather than putting some stuff back. So this review, unfortunately written not by me, recommended with both hands. This came last year in August. Matthew Zevzadeh, Marie Mittelbrunn. So, and the second mechanistic aspect I want to cover is about senescent cells. If you are not too tired, go. Okay, okay. You asked it for him. Yeah. Don't complain though. So, what are senescent cells?
Just a question. You are a proponent of the active aging, active killing program, right? And you don't like the degradation, the damage, right?
Yes.
But why do you think they are contradictory? I think entropy happens, right? It's real. So it's a question of how well controlled.
No, yeah, it can be that active program is switching off the repair mechanisms, and then you accumulate damage. But the core, I believe that the core mechanism is like a programmed something that switches off these mechanisms.
But it doesn't preclude the possibility that there is a limit to how well you can keep the repair going.
Maybe, but I think this repair should be quite beyond what we have right now. So you know, there is this plasticity that I showed with the eusocial insects, that they can switch from like living very short to living very long, and this is very difficult to agree with the damage, entropy, and limit. So the next question was.
Thank you. On the previous slide, you had that loss of function and gain of function outline. The gain of function, I think, are you assuming that it's trying to protect in case that individual reproduces in the future, because he can't affect his progeny that are already existing. He can't affect kids that are already born. Are you saying that the gain of function is by not allowing him to reproduce? And
no, I think this is a killing mechanism. So there's some maybe. I believe in this immune cells, this accumulation of senescent immune cells, exhausted T cells maybe, that they are actively aging our body and inducing a chronic inflammation, all these things together.
So, in response to this gentleman's comment about a potential limit to damage occurring, would you argue or embrace the idea that the fact that sexual reproduction and the embryo and the oocyte can fully repair all of the damage of aging in creating a new individual, but that actually speaks to the fact or possibility that all damage is reversible. If it weren't for the program you're positing.
I think most of the damage is reversible, probably except for somatic mutations. But somatic mutations would likely contribute to cancer, not for aging.
But somatic mutations also get reversed in sexual reproduction and the creation of a new embryo.
No, this is but this is already a new organism, new variant, so it doesn't count.
Okay.
Okay, so let me now tell me about the our senescent cells concept. You know, the senescent cells are strange things that cells divide, then they shorten telomere or response to DNA damage, virus infection. Then they go into this strange state. They are typically cleared by the immune system, but if not, they are allowed to synthesize these pro-inflammatory molecules, and these pro-inflammatory molecules are very damaging and can make other cells senescent. And if we have accumulation of the senescent cells, it is very bad for any disease. So the many conditions getting exacerbated. But what are senescent cells evolutionary? What for this conserved feature was fixed and maintained? So if this is a old screenshot from the site of this ICSA, the International Cell Senescence Association, and you can see the definition here. That cellular senescence is a programmed state of stable cell cycle arrest that is accompanied by a complex phenotype. Okay, this is observation. Now, senescent cells play a role in physiological processes such as tumor suppression, wound healing, embryonic development, whilst paradoxically they can contribute to aging, cancer, and age-related disease. So this is already clear that nothing is clear, right? So tumor, for example, comes in twice in positive and negative connotation. Wound healing doesn't get better with age. Embryonic development is fine, but we find senescent cells outside of embryonic development. What they are good for? So, and this question is, to me, is not answered fully. So, and there was 10 years ago, some people are telling them zombie cells, damaged cells, cells that stop doing their jobs. But we believe in different thing in line with our model. 10 years ago, there was a scientific report saying that cellular senescence is an antiviral defense mechanism. It wasn't recognized because some minor problems with experiment, I believe. But just making long story short, we reproduced it. It works indeed. So we're now studying it actively in our lab. So the theory is that, okay, so if a virus infects a cell, the cell is producing cytokines, signaling molecules that warn cells around about the infection, helping them to activate antiviral mechanisms. This is great, but this production of cytokines may be not stable because either the infected cell can die or virus can manipulate the cell, making it to stop producing cytokines. And then idea is that in response to cytokines, or if cell is able to defeat this virus, they go into this senescent state. Senescent cells produce cytokines in mass. They themselves are resistant to infection, and this helps to stabilize this cytokine supply. So we call it immune militia hypothesis, that every cell from every tissue can be recruited to be immune, help at the time to control the virus, communicate with normal immunity, and then the virus is gone, infection is cleared, then these cells should be removed because they the first row of contact, they still can contain a virus that can get reactivated. So this is our model we are trying to test right now. I will not show you experimental results. It will be too much, I'm sure. And yes, that's it. Any questions?
With modern medicine and vaccines, do you envision that naturally, as rates of endemic
Yes, positively. So you know that for the last 7 million years, probably less, we doubled our lifespan. So if, and with all the diseases that it didn't cure by that time, just by, I think, intellectual avoidance. So of course, if we are given a couple more million years, we will double it again.
That's exciting.
Yeah, but we hope to do it earlier a little bit. Andrei?
I have two questions, if that's okay. One, I think I asked you this question a couple of years ago, but I'd love to see how you're thinking evolved about it. So aging happens on such a slow scale, and infection and reinfections are super fast, right? Like if a young individual, like let's say a human, is infected, he still has maybe 70 years to live and infect plenty of others. So how does that work in terms of your thinking? And second question, I know you refute the sort of somatic mutation theory, but what about if it's just sort of epigenetic noise accumulation, like the system gets deregulated slowly? It's not really the DNA mutations, but just information degrades. Could that be an additional component? I'm not saying that I disagree with your idea that aging could be a program, but could that also be the additional component?
Yeah. Answering the first question, of course, it's all statistical, right? So organisms not always know if it is infected or not. Organisms not always know if it is infected if the disease is like one of these damaging type, like sterilizing chronic, or it is just a light one. And of course, everything is about statistics here. So like our age is determined, age of death, is determined by expectation of being infected by this age. And the second question about epigenetics, so I still don't see reasons why you need to believe in that. Because if you take any other disease, there will be epigenetic marks, we can build clocks, everything will be looking exactly the same. So why should we believe that it is a noise? And again, coming back to this, why should we believe this is a primary reason? If we're coming back to the eusocial insects that can switch between trajectories of aging, how do you put the epigenetics there? So, okay, so this is my dad, actually. He's a Russian mathematician, as you can see from his picture. We wrote a paper together. I missed him a lot, so I decided to make a little bit collaboration. Just it's not always easy to find a topic to discuss. So, and this was a fun. So, actually, some animals can rejuvenate. So, jellyfishes, ctenophores, some social insects, they go from sort of older to the younger stage. So, but they do it only under stress. So that if some trouble happens, normally they age and die. So why do they do it? And what happens with epigenetics under these conditions? How do you?
This is an isolated example.
No, yeah.
Stress can improve.
No, this is too many different conditions can induce that. So it's not just stress.
Okay, we can discuss later.
Yeah. So of note, I want to say that indeed the field sometimes is trying to explain these examples with like a swarm of little hypotheses ad hoc. So, and this I think is a bad indication. So we can put everything together into one single coherent narrative. Yeah, so I think the gentleman was, is it about Marians again?
No, it's about oocytes.
Oocytes.
Because they're in stasis for so long, but they don't present an immune system. Oocytes can last up to decades, I think, and they're like usually in a cluster around. So what does aging, you think, come into the signal come in and say you are going to die? It's at the reprogramming point, like when it turns into like a zygote, or like where does this aging signal?
No, as far as I know, the oocytes indeed age. Then after fertilization, some divisions are made, and then they indeed sort of nullify their epigenetic age.
So we can age oocytes even though they're in stasis?
I believe that the oocytes that are inside the female, they are aging as everything else.
Like accumulation in like the proteins and stuff, or?
No, I think it has been done by methylation clock. Please?
Looking at this, I kind of, through the perspective of genetic diversity, like bacteria, they don't really undergo they undergo spontaneous fission, right? Where they don't really undergo the reorganization of gametes, and therefore they don't really change as much as eukaryotes. So eukaryotes, they're always changing, and they gain genetic diversity like much quicker. So could it be that due to the rate at which eukaryotes, and like therefore humans, evolve and change and sort of diversify, that it's like a function of being a eukaryote that aging exists, right?
So this is an interesting question. We have an answer to it. So read my book. So it will be difficult to explain right now. So the basic thing that in bacteria almost everything is lethal, because if a virus got into cell, you cannot clean it up. And in eukaryotes, we have a lot of viruses that you can clean up, and that's why we don't do ABI system. It would be too costly because of these false positives. It's discussed. So we are preparing a paper about it. So I think it will be too much in detail right now to discuss that, I believe.
You know, one thing I think is very interesting is with the naked mole rats. Like, doesn't that kind of system seem optimal, where like you have very little aging unless you get infected with something where you die immediately? So why don't you see that as in worse species?
It is related to the previous question very much, and the short answer is read my book. But the main idea is that you need eusociality for that. So the eusociality. So you need to have this colony with queens and workers. Workers sacrifice themselves for queens. So in solitary animals, this probably would not work much. So only it is very costly, because mole rats probably can kill itself in response to flu or common cold, right? So which is waste. So that for that you need sort of a very different reproductive structure. Tanya?
Peter, you rejuvenated a lot since you live in Hong Kong, as I can see. So can we assume that you got rid of some of your pathogens?
No. So this was okay. You have.
My question is.
I don't have much pathogens, but I don't feel rejuvenated as well. So question doesn't qualify too much.
My question is, we know that sport calorie restriction or stress decrease can rejuvenate.
I think slower aging rather. Yeah.
Statistically, I think.
Yeah, but you know, right now, how do we measure aging? So this is methylation clock. Is it fair matrix? What does it measure? We don't know exactly. So sometimes, yes, indeed, some of the markers can go back, but it is too. Yeah, it slows down aging. Yes, that's true, but
can be related with pathogen content.
No, I think generally the environment is modulating aging. So depending on situation. For example, chronic infection accelerates aging very strongly. This is very consistent with the model, also in preparation. But the other things probably also can contribute if you are sort of agile, if you still feel you are reproducibly active and have potential, then you probably want to extend.
Is it possible to make an experiment where you can
We're not really hearing either of you, FYI.
I will try better.
Is it possible to create an experiment when you make a sterile
environment and
for mice, for example, and
evolve them for a couple million years? Possible, but
evolve. You just
no.
clean them for.
Yeah. So the question is if sterile mice in the environment will help to test something. Maybe, but so again, aging is not caused by, mechanistically caused by pathogens. It is immune adaptation that evolved sort of to kill animals based on statistical statistical expectation of being infected and the niche they evolved in.
So aging will happen no matter
Of the pathogens, yes, because it is already wired in us.
Sorry, I'm not a biologist, but you were saying, you kind of, your theory is that it's a program, right? So it means that during their evolution, it was like acquired program, right? So at some point, there should be like a point where we all have a relative, like somewhere back there, that was not aging, right?
Yeah, no, bacteria I think don't age much. So there are some effects that people call aging, but I don't think it's true aging.
So you think it happened back there, like at bacterial level? I wonder, where do you think it happened?
I think some the animals that divide asymmetrically sometimes age. So in yeast it happened. So it probably was still early in the one single cell stage. But it doesn't mean that mechanistically it was the same as we have right now. So, you exhausted? I am. Mikhail asked to tell you that in principle, this is very, it's not very new, but it was rejected by the field for a long time. So if you want to volunteer somehow, help us in our quest, we will be very happy to hear back from you. So we have both, and we are a research lab, and also we do sort of some outreach to people to tell about this story. Because this mindset that aging is not a program was with us for so long that people forget arguments. So they just see programmed aging, this cannot be true. So and this is something that we need to break down, the ice we need to crack. If you want to help, we will be very happy.